I'm delighted to welcome you all to the launch of Coronavirus, What You Need to Know About the Global Pandemic. We'll begin the event with a recital of Gurudev Rabindranath Tagore's Where the Mind is Without Fear in the powerful voice of Mr. Nasiruddin Shah.
Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where the world has not been broken up into fragments, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father. Let my country awake.
Wow, that was beautiful, wasn't it? We're extremely proud of this book, and I'm happy to share that the book has been receiving high critical and media acclaim. And now, to take the event forward, I'd like to call upon Millie Aishwarya, the editor of the book and also publisher, Ebury and Vintage Division, Penguin Random House India. Millie, over to you.
A very good evening to all of you. I've been waiting for this day for a long, long time, and it makes this day even more special for me. The Coronavirus, What You Need to Know About the Global Pandemic by Dr. Swapnil Parikh, Maherra, and Dr. Rajesh Parikh is the first comprehensive, well-researched and reliable book on the subject. We first published the book as an e-book in March, and now I'm pleased to share that it is available in the physical format. I'm deeply honored and delighted that Mrs. Nita Ambani and Mr. Mukesh and Mrs are here for the book launch and to make this day even more memorable for us. A lot of people ask me, how did the book happen? How did you publish it so quickly? Well, all I can say that it could not have happened without the relentless hard work and commitment of my authors, Dr. Swapnil Parikh, Maherra, and Dr. Rajesh Parikh, as well as my entire team at Penguin Random House India that worked round the clock to bring it out. In the process, we've had a fair share of debates and arguments over every minute detail of the book, from the cover to the glossary. We also had moments of joy and laughter at seeing the book take shape and at meeting the tough deadlines. Believe me, it's not an easy task, either for the publishers or the authors. Today, I can confidently say that I could not have asked for better authors for the book. The level of commitment, professionalism, and hard work that they brought to the book is unparalleled. Thank you so much for writing the book. I have relished the journey, and I hope the book will help readers in India as well as across the world to understand the unprecedented challenges brought about by the coronavirus.
Thank you, Millie. It gives me immense pleasure now to invite Dr. Swapneil Parikh to say a few words about the journey of writing this book. Dr. Swapneil Parikh is a practicing physician in Mumbai and is the co-founder of DIY Health, a healthcare startup that is AI-powered and human-centered, currently focused on pandemic response. He has been volunteering services at the epicenter of COVID-19 in India, the Kasturba Hospital for Infectious Diseases, Mumbai. He's passionate about clinical research and is involved in several research projects on COVID-19. Swapnil, as we fondly call him, over to you.
Dear Nita, Auntie and Mukesh Uncle, thank you so much for taking time out of your incredibly busy schedules to launch our book. Your support over the years means so much to me. I can't thank you enough. In January, a new infectious threat popped up on the world's radar, motivated to tell our readers how we got here, where this pandemic might take us, and incredible stories from the annals of medical history, we set out to write this book. I did not think the journey to becoming a Penguin Random House author would be so personally transformative. Before the book, I had moved more into clinical practice, but writing the coronavirus book reignited my passion for clinical research and inspired me to dedicate myself to pandemic response. I'd like to thank Millie Aishwarya and the entire team at Penguin Random House for the opportunity to write this book and everything that followed. I'd like to express my heartfelt gratitude to my co-authors, my dad, Dr. Rajesh Parikh, and Maherra Desai. My wife, Meena, despite her own busy medical practice provided so much support. My mother, Dr. Parikh, is both my biggest inspiration and my biggest fan. My siblings, Manish and Nikita, and their partners, Shivani and Beshan, my dog, Akira, the world's greatest dog, and an incredible listener. A big thank you to my entire family. Dr. Rajat Shah, my co-founder at our pandemic response startup, DIY.health, shouldered much of the workload while I was writing the book. Ashutosh, thank you so much for your late night counsel on all things pandemic. Aditya, thank you for your support and encouragement. Dr. Jayanti Shastri, thank you for your mentorship and for putting up with me at the molecular lab at Kasturba Hospital. To all my teachers, thank you for inspiring a love for science and medicine and for giving me all the tools to be where I am today. To the patients who shared their stories with me and allowed me to learn from their experiences, thank you. It is my personal desire that this book introduces people to the incredible world of microbiology, virology, immunology, and also highlights the urgent need to fund scientific research and pandemic preparedness. Writing this book was such a rewarding experience. I'd like to thank all the readers. I hope it brings some joy, knowledge, and safety into pandemic times. Thank you.
Thanks, Swapnil. That was very insightful. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is my absolute privilege to invite pioneering philanthropist and chairperson and founder of the Reliance Foundation, Mrs. Nita Ambani, to say a few words about the book and her view of the pandemic. Under her leadership, the Reliance Foundation has facilitated 50 million meals to marginalized communities, daily wage earners, and workers in these very difficult times. Mrs. Ambani, this is a rare privilege. Please share a few words with us.
Hello, everyone. Namaskar. Rajesh, Swapnil, Maherra, all our friends who are watching, and to each one of you who has joined us virtually today, my warmest wishes and regards. This is a very special occasion for two reasons. Firstly, Mukesh and I are overjoyed because I'm releasing a book written by people we deeply cherish. Heartiest congratulations to Dr. Swapnil Parikh, Maherra Desai, and Dr. Rajesh Parikh. Rajesh and Firoza have been our dearest friends for 4 decades, and we have always shared all our special moments together. So it is really my pleasure and honor to launch this must-read book on the coronavirus and what you need to know about the global pandemic. That brings me to the second reason. In normal times, we would have all been together for this celebration today. But these times are far from normal. The COVID-19 pandemic has been a period of unprecedented fear, grief, and uncertainty. And that is why this book is such an important, timely, and essential piece of work. It addresses the most critical need of the hour. It empowers us with knowledge that can save lives. It dispels misinformation. It reflects on human response to crisis. Most importantly, it is an ode to humanity's collective strength and resilience. This book is one of the earliest pieces of comprehensive writing on the subject. Many of the predictions they have made in this book have already come true. Rajesh, Swapnil, and Maherra started writing this book as early as February. And so it insightfully chronicles the crisis from the very beginning. And true to today's digital age, this is an interactive book. So you can get digital updates on every chapter. So I urge all of you to read this book, to stay connected, stay aware, and stay safe. Friends, I have no doubt there'll be a new dawn, a better tomorrow. a safer and stronger tomorrow for all of us in India and around the world. And for that, we will forever owe a huge debt to all our frontline warriors who are fighting this battle from the forefront. My heartfelt gratitude and salute to all the doctors, nurses, and the entire medical community for the brave and selfless response to the crisis. In their work, we have all placed our faith and our hope. Thank you once again, Rajesh, Swapnil, and Maherra, for writing this book and for all the outstanding work you do every day, especially to fight COVID-19. More power to you. And my prayers and best wishes to all of you for strength, safety, and good health. Take care. Keep well.
Thank you, Mrs. Nita Ambani, for your wonderful words. It is an absolutely rare occasion as Mrs. Nita Ambani is joined today by none other than Mr. Mukesh Ambani, Chairman and Managing Director of Reliance Industries, for the launch of our book, Coronavirus. He has been at the forefront of our country's economic battle against the virus, and I would like to invite him to say a few words and share his experiences with us today.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us virtually to celebrate this very special occasion. It gives me great pleasure to be with you at the e-launch of the book on coronavirus pandemic by a very dear and eminent friend, Dr. Rajesh Parikh. Let me also warmly congratulate his co-authors, Dr. Swapnil Parikh, whom I have known since birth, and his colleague, Maherra Desai. My warmest wishes on this occasion to all three of you. Friends, Rajesh is a man of many talents.
Is a neuropsychiatrist.
But he's also a poet, a painter, a photographer, a pilot, a linguist, and now an author. I sometimes wonder how a person can be so uniquely gifted. I think that Rajesh belongs to God's limited edition creations. I have also had the good fortune of having Rajesh as my dear friend since my days in school and college. We used to debate together and have spent many wonderful times over the years together. I have known him as a loving parent, a great doctor, and an even better human being. And 40 years on, he continues to inspire me with his curiosity, passion, and his concern for well-being of humanity. This book on the coronavirus pandemic is an outcome of this concern. Friends, it is my absolute privilege today to be part of the book launch of my dear friend, Dr. Rajesh Parikh. This book, The Coronavirus, and What You Need to Know About the Global Pandemic, has come out when it is needed the most. This book provides answers to the question that we all have. How did the COVID-19 pandemic begin? How did it spread so fast all over the globe? Why were we unable to contain it? And what can we do now? The COVID-19 pandemic is undoubtedly the most disruptive event in modern history. It is both a public health crisis and also an unprecedented economic crisis. Precisely because its sweep is global, the fight against it also calls for a strong global cooperation. All the countries are in it together in suffering its consequences. Therefore, the world needs a cooperative and collaborative effort by all of humanity. This thought is uppermost in my mind when I join you all in today's program. Rajesh, Swapnil, and Maherra, thank you for writing this book. I'm sure it will help and guide all of us. Heartiest congratulations once again, and all the very best. We look forward to many more of your incredible achievements and all of you becoming authors of many great books in the years to come. Take care, keep well, and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambani, for your kind words. I request our co-author, Maherra Desai, to say a few words now. Maherra is a clinical psychologist and medical researcher. She is the site manager of clinical research at the Jaslok Hospital and Research Center, Mumbai, and visiting faculty, Department of Psychology at the SNDT Women's University, Mumbai. Maherra, please share a few words with us.
Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Ambani, for supporting our book and for launching it today. The realization that our book has finally reached the shelves overwhelms me. When Dr. Rajesh Parikh first discussed the book concept with me back in January, I was excited and yet daunted that it was an impossible task. We were given 2 weeks to complete the manuscript. We completed the initial draft in 3 weeks. As Robert Browning said, man's reach should exceed his grasp, something that the Ambani family have proven time and time again. When faced with a challenge, we all have capacities well beyond our imagination. The pandemic situation has brought varying degrees of loss and hardship for each one of us. However, in these difficult times, we have also uncovered our potential to adapt in the most trying of times. With this book, we hope to cover not only the medical, but the human angle of the pandemic as well. The Jaslok Hospital and Research Center, as well as healthcare workers across the globe who work tirelessly, have inspired us to write this book, and our book is a dedication to them. I would like to thank Dr. Rajesh Parikh and Swapnil for this opportunity. It has truly been a pleasure to work with both of you. Munira Kapadia, thank you for your friendship, your constant support, and your constructive criticism. The past few months would have been impossible without you. I would also like to thank the Penguin Random House team, led by Millie Aishwarya, for your patience, your gentle nudging, and understanding. Finally, I would like to thank my family and my friends for their unwavering support. My parents, Nazakat and Quresh, as well as my mother-in-law, Amita, for dealing with my complete absence over the past few months. And Abhishek, my husband, for urging me to always do better. To everyone who believed in us, thank you.
Thank you, Maherra. I'm now delighted to welcome Dr. Rajesh Parikh to share with us his experience of working through the pandemic, the book, and what lies ahead. Dr. Rajesh Parikh is the Director of Medical Research and Honorary Neuropsychiatrist at the Jaslok Hospital and Research Center, Mumbai. He trained and taught at the Johns Hopkins Medical Institutions in the US and at the King Edward VII Memorial Hospital in Mumbai. He is India's first and leading neuropsychiatrist. He has cumulatively won over 200 awards in academics and diverse activities. Dr. Parikh, over to you.
Thank you, Nita and Mukesh, for being here with us this evening and for your kind words. I'm always amazed at how much you accomplish and yet manage to find time for your family and for your friends. I have been fortunate in receiving affection from 3 generations of your family over 4 decades. And a lot of what I have learned from them has percolated its way into this book. You have been so busy, not only being at the forefront of the economic stability of our country, but also at the forefront of what is the subject of this book, the pandemic, in providing over 50 million meals to our migrant workers and underprivileged citizens, to manufacturing over 25 million PPEs, and in record time, constructing India's first exclusive COVID-19 hospital in Mumbai. And the lessons that have percolated into this book are primarily three. The first is growth is life. This book began as an idea while floating down the Ganga with my good friend from Delaware, the psychiatrist Ram Ranga, and reflecting on what was then happening with the disease in Wuhan. It then moved to a conversation with the dynamic publisher of Penguin Random House, and then finally metamorphosed into this book, which is in its third reprint even before the launch and is being translated in 11 languages. So that is Growth is Life. The second thing that has come into the being of this book is nothing is impossible. Through 3 generations of your family, I have never heard anyone use the word impossible in their vocabulary. In the early days of this book, it was being enthusiastically considered by one of the largest publishing houses in the world and was sailing along the editorial process when the marketing team raised a legitimate objection. In the 6 weeks interlude from submission of the final manuscript to the book being in the booksellers, there was a distinct possibility that there might be some development, such as a breakthrough medication or even a vaccine, which could make the book outdated as it appeared. It took me 5 minutes to think of a solution, and we thought that what if we had an interactive book in which each chapter got updated every week, and for those who opted, there would be breakthrough notifications of major developments such as vaccine development. And then the third lesson, and perhaps what is most important in your lives, in the success of everything that you've done, and more recently, spectacular success of Geo and its young team, and that is to give the end user maximum value. In our case, of course, it's the reader. I have seen you time and again begin all plans with how they would give maximum value to the user and then move backwards to the drawing board to sort out how to fulfill that need. We too started by wondering, what would our readers want to know the most about this pandemic? What information would be of greatest use to them? And then we worked backwards into the book. You see, writing can often be a self-indulgent and sometimes narcissistic exercise in which the writer believes he or she has a lot of knowledge, which should be shared enthusiastically with the readers, regardless of whether they are receptive for it or not. In thinking of our readers first, we were able to come up with the solution of the interactive book. And for this, I'd like to thank Abhishek Desai and Danish Siddiqui of Deputy Brand Works for implementing into action what otherwise might have just remained an idea, and in the process, creating what is probably the world's first interactive book, which gives weekly updates on every chapter, and for those who opt, even breakthrough notifications. Now, none of this would have been possible without my co-authors, Swapi and Maherra, who have worked incredibly hard at making this book possible. And I'd like to thank the incredible team at Penguin, led by Millie Ashwarya, Preeti, Devangana, Khyati, Sanjita, Shivani, Samir, Shantanu, and Vijesh. But for your amazing hard work, this book would have never seen the light of day. Now, whoever said that penguins do not fly, I'd also like to thank Munira Kapadia, who has worked relentlessly on this book as hard as any of us, to go through 600 references, to create a glossary, to create a sources section, and moreover, meticulously go through every single word of this book several times. Munira, you've earned your place to be a co-author with us whenever we write our next book. I'd like to thank my family, Firoza, who has been by my side for 46 years as a strong source of support and has put up with my peculiarities, such as long periods of silence, reflection, and meditation, and to my children, 6 children, for their love and support over the years. Nikki, Manu, Swapi, Pesh, Shivani, and Meenal, you make everything so worthwhile. And finally, I'd like to thank all our readers. But for you, there would be no writers, there would be no publishers, there would be no books, and of course, there would be no book launches. So thank you for being with us this evening. Please stay safe and God bless.
This has been a very inspiring evening. And even though we are all living in very difficult times, the vision of such luminaries gives us hope that we shall overcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay healthy, and thanks so much for joining us today.
Live.
All right, so thank you everybody for joining us. We've probably already broken a world record for the largest number of people at a book launch. And, there are so many questions and we're not going to be able to answer all of them. So we're going to try and group them together. But I'd request all of you who've put questions to put your email IDs quickly after your questions, because we'd like to answer every possible question. And we'll do that individually on email for the ones that we cannot cover. Maherra, Swapi, great to have you here. We'll just focus on giving short and quick answers. Maherra, the first question I have to take is from Dr. Ashish Contractor. He's the guy who's made sure I'm fit. And the question is on the psychological impact of this pandemic on people.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parikh, and thank you, Dr. Ashish Contractor, for your question. With the pandemic, we are seeing that it's affecting all age groups. It's affecting the general population as well. In our life so far, we've not seen quarantines and lockdowns or restrictions globally to the extent that we are seeing them now. We are worried for short-term as well as long-term effects. And what we are more likely to see, especially in cultures like ours, are psychosomatic symptoms. So we are watching out for sleep disturbances seem to have come out predominantly. In fact, a study just published yesterday by the CDC indicated that there is a 4-fold increase in the depression, a 3-fold increase in anxiety that we are seeing amongst youngsters. We are looking out for an increase in substance use as well. So these are things that we need to be sensitive towards, watch out for, identify, and build an infrastructure to identify these early and help them cope better. Because we have the ability to build our coping mechanisms along with this. And we are also seeing people who are finding new meaning in life, a new purpose, and we have to try and help as many to prevent a future mental health pandemic after the COVID pandemic.
Thank you, Maherra. Swapi, there's a group of questions we have to take. I'm clustering them together. They're from my school friend, Nagesh Sima, from Naveen Agarwal, from Subrata Bandyopadhyay, Ajit. A lot of people want to know what is likely to happen in India in the next few weeks. And also, what is the most worrying thing and the most hopeful thing in this pandemic?
In the next couple of weeks, months, we're likely to see an acceleration in the number of infections in India. As we ramp up testing, we'll catch a few of these, but we're not going to catch all of them. We might start to see a shift from urban areas to rural areas. It's a worrying scenario. We're not nearly out of the woods yet. What has been the most worrying thing is just how this has exposed the inadequacies in our public health infrastructure, societal inequities. What I'm hopeful about, I'm specifically hopeful about RT-LAMP. It's a new generation assay. I believe that this holds a lot of promise. It's cheap. We can test a lot of people very often. And I believe that will help bring the
virus under control.
Thank you, Swapi. Now there are questions about the interactive feature in our book. A lot of people are intrigued because we've said this is probably the world's first interactive book and they want to know how it works. I have a copy of the book here. So that's the book. At the back side of the book, here is a QR code, if you can see it. So all one needs to do is scan this QR code. And once you scan the QR code at the back of the book on your phone, you enter the website of the book, where every week we'll give you updates on every chapter. If you opt to share your cell phone number with us or your email ID, you will also get breakthrough notifications. For example, if a vaccine is suddenly found effective, you'll be amongst the first people to know because we'll send you a notification. If a new drug is proven to be effective, you'll get to know. This will make sure that the book stays relevant for a long time, and you don't have to rush in to buy the next edition, which will probably come out in a couple of months. So that's as far as the interactive part of the book is concerned. And well, I think Maherra, you're the best person to answer this. Why have women leaders done so well in this pandemic?
Well, I will refer to Dr. Parikh, something that you had mentioned 25 years ago as an address with the Bombay Psychiatric Society. And that women's brains are wired differently to men and perhaps carved out for intuition, for compassion, and for intellect, which I think makes the perfect recipe for great compassionate leadership. And therein lies the answer.
Okay, so you'd be a good leader for our team as well. All right. Swapi, a lot of questions on treatment. I know you're up to date on this, tracking it 4 times a day. So what is the latest on treatment options?
Treatment options, the latest is actually some bad news. A lot of the so-called treatment options have not panned out.
Frozen.
The latest in treatment options is that is not good news. A lot of the treatment options a lot of the treatment options that we were investigating haven't panned out in clinical trials. But antivirals, remdesivir does reduce the duration of symptoms, can reduce infectivity. There's a new antiviral that an AI identified that might hold some promise. Dexamethasone has a mortality benefit. A lot of immunomodulators. Convalescent plasma therapy is still being investigated. Potential hope there in early infections. Monoclonal antibodies, huge hope there. And we've written about all of this in our books. I would encourage you to check out the book and get some info there.
Yeah, that's a fairly long chapter in the book, I know, on treatment and vaccines. So also a lot of questions on vaccines. I can just answer that very quickly because I could talk for an hour and still not do justice. Very quickly, about 260 plus vaccines in various stages of trial. Nothing that's certain as of now, regardless of the announcements that you keep getting in the media periodically. They serve to drive stock prices up. But most likely we are not going to have anything till the end of the year or early next year. Once again, I will refer you to the chapter in the book on treatment and vaccines because there's a far more detailed explanation of how the vaccines work and what are the likely candidates. And Maherra, question on the role of social media. People are curious. What is the role of social media in this pandemic?
I think the social media and the way it has been perceived has changed drastically from pre-pandemic to pandemic times. When previously people thought, tech giants are malicious, they're trying to pry on privacy. However, social media really emerged as the savior during this pandemic, right from the beginning in December, where social media was used to spread widely, and whistleblowers came out about the situation in Wuhan, alerted people worldwide, to researchers coming together and in real time investigating treatment options, making real time collaborations possible, and even to every person, every lay person, you and me, social media is what enabled us to stay socially connected in a time of staying physically distant. So
Thank you. Thank you, Maherra. Sophie, I'll push this on to you because I know it's an area of great interest and close to your heart. A couple of questions on the role of AI, artificial intelligence, in this pandemic, but you can also talk about its role in future.
Mhm. So AI has played a role in modeling, trying to model how this outbreak is going to evolve. In diagnostics, it's played a role, AI augmented radio diagnosis. Um, in therapeutics, in the development of therapeutics, a great example, there's a company called Applimod, AI Therapeutics. They used a machine learning algorithm to screen about 13,000 different molecules and identified Applimod, a potential antiviral, which also has some immunomodulatory effects. With vaccines, we can also start to look at how vaccines can behave in different groups using AI.
Oh, fantastic. And of course, the antibiotic created by AI at MIT called Halcyon, named after the character, I should say, is almost human. HAL in 2001, A Space Odyssey. Again, a lot of details on the role of AI in our book. And then, I can't read out everybody's names because there's so many questions. So please pardon that. Once again, a gentle reminder, please put your email IDs after your questions so that we can answer everybody individually. We promise to do that. A lot of questions which I'm not going to dwell on. What went wrong in the US? Why is the US doing so badly? I think goes back to Maherra, leadership. Maybe a woman leader might have done a greater job than what's happened right now. It's ironic that the most advanced country in the world, the best hospitals, best doctors, greatest number of Nobel laureates in the world, has showing a picture in the pandemic which is far worse than any impoverished country anywhere in the world. I think if it is one word, it would be leadership. Now, let me see. We are running out of time, so we'll just take quick questions. Maherra, there's a question of the impact of this pandemic on education of children. They're at home, they're deprived of school, social mingling. What do you think is the likely impact?
So it is worrisome when we're looking at children. In fact, in April alone, more than 90% of the world's children were out of school and lesson systems were disrupted. That's we're talking about over 1.6 billion children being affected. We're looking at it not only affecting their education, but past outbreaks have indicated that it doesn't look so hopeful. They're likely to even drop out of school. So with children, it's going to be a very fine balance of trying to protect their physical safety and at the same time find a way and means to provide education provide education to them so that we can prevent long-term psychological impacts.
Okay, thank you, Maherra. We're a couple of minutes from wrapping up. Everything that this brilliant young team at GeoMeet does runs precisely on time. I don't want to shoot over. One quick question to Swapti related to bioterrorism. I know it's a long answer. It's there in our book. But if you can just tell us about the new type of bioterrorism one could encounter.
What's happening increasingly is scientists are doing a lot of research known as gain of function research. It gives viruses that may not be easily transmissible between humans the ability to transmit. This is considered essential research because that's how we study these viruses. But with the advancements in technology and it becoming more ubiquitous, easy to access, it's not beyond the realm of possibility that a would-be bioterrorist could set up a lab in a garage, create a virus like this. Or hey, even someone takes a sample of the SARS-CoV-2 and uses that, aerosolizes that inside a train or inside a long-term care facility. Lots of different ways that bioterrorism could become very relevant.
Thank you, Swapi. How about the suicide bomber being replaced by an infected person who just walks into a hotel lobby and starts coughing everywhere? So there are a lot of possibilities. We are now down to our last half minute. I'll quickly dwell on just one question, and that is future waves of this pandemic. We don't know. There have been abortive second waves in some countries, but we do know from history that the pandemic that occurred 100 years ago had three waves. The first in spring of 1918, and then in fall around September, there was a second wave, far worse than the first wave. And then a few months later, there was a third wave, not as bad as the second wave, but less than the first. So we have to brace ourselves. We should not get a false sense of security and believe that everything is over. We have to be careful, get on with life. We used a phrase called cultural extinction event. So this is a new culture. This is a book launch, which otherwise would not have happened had it not been for the pandemic.
Technological issues. Thank you, everyone, for being with us today. It was amazing to be.
Yeah, I think I was cut off for a minute. So just like to thank all our guests, viewers, for having stayed on till the end of the program. You all are in thousands. I apologize for not answering all questions, but promise to do that on email. If you put your email in, the book will give you far greater answers to your questions than we have been able to do in this much time. So thank you, all of you, and particularly my great thanks to the wonderful, amazing young team of GeoMeet. You've got spectacular success in Geo. I'm sure you'll do likewise with GeoMeet. Thank you so much for this. And thank you, dear friends, for joining this event. It's been a great pleasure to be here with you today. And Maherra, Swapi, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.